Good morning. Mr. Bowden?
Good morning. I know
safety message to indicate changes here. Primarily it's the state police in various New York and New Jersey.
I'm not going to get killed standing out there doing a traffic stop, and there are police officers. This is symbolic of the fact that we're in a new society, we think differently, and my role is different. Darrell, rather than bring issues up here, I'm requesting that you set up a meeting with me for the proper people to discuss the two issues that I'm concerned with, the steering wheels and the digital displays. It's appropriate for us to discuss it somewhere else and not here. So if I have issues, and my issue with you, and you know, and by the way, you've been very helpful. The staff should know that you've been very helpful to me. So if you could do that, my time here will now be asking for meetings if I need to, if I can't get them in, arranged otherwise. So as soon as possible would be appreciated. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bowden. I'd like an approval for the minutes of the last meeting. Second? Okay. Now we will turn to there are no changes in the work plan this month. I know I stole your thunder, Tom.
It's okay.
Darrell?
Okay, good morning, members of the committee. Before we start this morning, I'm going to ask Tom Del Sorbo to give an update on Long Island Bus, the transition.
Thank you, Darrell. Good morning. The Nassau County Legislature unanimously approved the contract with Veolia on December 12th. The contract has been sent to NYFA staff for review. NYFA is scheduled to vote on it this Thursday. And we are on target from the MTA Long Island Bus perspective. We're on target for a January 1st transfer of operations. We're in the final stages of our work to hand off all the vehicle fleets, the facilities, and all the associated equipment that is owned by Nassau and will be used by Veolia in the operation. Veolia has hired almost all represented Long Island Bus employees that applied for a position with the company. This includes bus operators and maintenance employees. The represented supervisors that are represented in Long Island Bus today being hired by Veolia are being classified as management personnel. Approximately 30 maintenance and about 7 paratransit employees that applied for a position with Veolia are not being hired based on their business model and their budget, and that's Veolia's information. 94% or 278 of the 295 bus fixed route fleet and all paratransit vehicles passed state DOT inspection and was certified for service as of this past Saturday. We've undertaken a fairly extensive and aggressive effort to prepare the older buses for the inspections so that transition can move forward. We expect that we'll have all remaining 17 buses inspected and approved by DOT this week, and all scheduled maintenance operations will also be completed and up to date on the transition date. This will ensure, as has always been the case, that the fleet will be in a safe and operable condition on the January 1st handover date. As of today, although it's close, the agreement to sign the AFC, to use the AFC MetroCard system is still not finalized. The terms and conditions have essentially been agreed to, but the parties have not signed the document yet. We expect that that's going to happen this week based on our information. We've begun discussions with Nassau to create a joint wind-down agreement between MTA, Long Island Bus, and Nassau County to address activities that have to take place after January 1st. For instance, there are mandated reporting that we have to deal with, and those conversations have started. MTA Long Island Bus is in the final stages of coordinating with Nassau County an effort to notify the FTA and work with the vendor to exercise an option in the existing Long Island Bus Orion contract to receive a total of 43 new CNG buses beginning in 2012. 23 of the 43 buses will be funded through remaining unused grants that exist today, and Nassau has committed to separately fund and find the money for the remaining 20 buses in that 43 bus order. So that's the transition update from our end. We'll be happy to field any questions.
Pat, is Pat
He's over there.
Oh, you had a comment?
Yeah, Tom, Darrell, I just want to note that Newsday today reports that the Transport Workers Union, which represents the bus drivers and others on Long Island, have not signed an agreement. I just wanted to publicly urge Veolia to sign an agreement that is fair, but to do it quickly and to make sure that the dignity and respect of the workers is recognized. Thanks.
Good point.
Can you, I mean, at the moment, we're still in the assumption stage. Various things are going to happen. We hope they're going to happen in that regard. Can you next month provide us, to the extent it's possible, with a comparison between their costs or costs they intend to pursue and the costs we had in operating the system? They have made a statement in the paper on a number of occasions that obviously their goal is to significantly reduce the cost of operation. Forget the issue of fares and service, the cost of operating the current system. Obviously, I'd like to see how that is possible. One of the issues they raised is they believe that they can get a significant reduction in the purchase of natural gas. Now, I don't know the answer to that question is yes. I don't know the answer to that question is no. But I'd like to know the answer to the question when it happens, because obviously it could have impacts upon our service operations, not only no longer at Long Island, but obviously in the city and other places. So if you could next month provide us with some kind of analysis to the extent you can between what our costs were, what our personnel services were, how many people, what they're using, and what their costs are for procurement of those type of ongoing activities, that would be very helpful.
Mitch will absolutely attempt to do that. They have been, to date, and probably understandably so, very proprietary about the information they have. We're very interested, too, in learning some lessons here, whether or not there are things we can apply to the remaining side of the bus operations. So after January 1st, I'll provide an update on whether that information becomes available.
Okay.
How are you going to do this in 1 month?
Well,
I mean, something that's like the natural gas, something specific.
We can have some high-level...
They can have some. They can have. There are certain things that they're going to have to buy.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Natural gas, I assume, being
That
one
is
of them.
intriguing now.
Insurance. You know, how many people they're employed at different places. Those type of things, you know, are going to happen January 1 ongoing, but they're going to happen at some point, and most likely some point between January 1 and our next bus meeting. If it takes till February, it takes till February. I didn't want to use it in that. I wasn't using January as a deadline. I was using January as a that's when the transformation
Well,
starts.
that's a very good
And whatever
idea,
period of time it takes, because I'd like to understand their business model to the extent we can, as opposed to our business model, to see if there are any things we can learn or not learn in that context. I don't want to presume we're going to learn anything.
Oh,
I just like to find out what we
You
are.
need to understand, though,
They,
because there's a
believe
big
me,
difference.
they're in it to make money, so
And
we've
that's-
got to see how they're making money.
That's we'll see.
Andrew?
Tom, has Veolia committed to keeping all of the routes and schedules that now exist?
Only, well, not through the full year of 2012. They made some modifications in last week's vote at the legislature to Veolia. I believe, still has the right to drop the 5 weakest routes. Cost recovery is the primary determinant in the first year. The fares are intact for 2012, both on the paratransit and the fixed route side. After that, is anyone's guess?
Have they identified those 5 weakest?
No. I mean, they have their own series of metrics that they are, you know, we've obviously provided them with ridership information all along since they've been on the scene, and they're developing their own metrics in terms of what the cost recovery numbers need to be and where they go.
Wow. Scary for some of the riders. Very scary. Oh, did you? Yeah. Okay, so before we go on to the operations report, I just wanted to mention something that board member Susan Metzger asked me to thank. She publicly spoke about it at the railroad meeting to thank the bus committee for the work they did in Port Jervis. She said it was extraordinary, and she wanted me to thank all of you personally.
Thank you.
I take no credit for it. Okay, next.
Okay, so we'll move to operations. The performance highlights for the month of October 2012 and the past 12 months are on page 10 and 11 in the committee book. For the month of October, combined MDBF was down slightly by 0.8% compared to October 2010 levels. AM pullouts were down by 0.8% also, and PM pullouts were down by 0.5% as compared to October 2010. Resulting completed trips were down by 0.6% from October 2010. Over the 12-month period ending 2011, combined MDBF fell by 8.9% compared to the 12-month period, the previous 12-month period. AM and PM pullouts as well as completed trips all fell by 0.4% or less during the recent 12-month period. A preliminary review of bus MDBF data indicates improved performance when compared to November 2010 and a 13% gain over October 2011 levels. So we're cautiously optimistic from the work that we're doing is starting to show some results in reliability. And that completes the operations report, and I'll now turn the meeting over to Steve Vidal to go over the safety report.
Just one thing. When you say the work you're doing, do you mean with the newer equipment?
No, we have a applied focus on
the
improving maintenance.
Program that
yes.
we talked about. Okay.
Right. Various
I
things
didn't
that
know
we're
if
doing.
that's what you meant. Okay. Anyone have any questions? Next.
Thank you, Darren.
Alan.
Oh, I keep looking over to the right. I apologize.
There are those of us on the left, too.
Yeah.
The pilot project in Staten Island,
We're on target for the first of the year.
so we'll be 100% equipped and ready to go January 1st.
Yeah, yes. The actual rollout date may be a few days after January 1st, but right now we're on target to have all equipment outfitted. I don't know the specific numbers right now, Alan, but within the next week or so, all the buses should have all of the tracking software and what have you. So then we'll roll it out publicly.
Do you want?
Okay.
Okay. I'd say you could get an update in the January meeting, but by
Well,
Hopefully we should be
start
ready.
getting reports.
Yes, it should
Okay.
be operating.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our comments on the September's customer and employee safety performance are found on page 12 of the book. The 12-month rate for combined bus collisions per million miles traveled across the 3 bus units is 4.8% higher than it was in the prior 12-month period. Although the 12-month average rate is higher, performance has trended positive overall since we experienced the adverse impact of the December and January winter storms. September was actually our first month that didn't track better than the previous year. With regard to collision injuries, September showed a monthly decrease of 2.8% across the 3 agencies, and we are flat over the comparable 12-month average period. Despite the monthly improvement, however, we're still not seeing a trend that is consistent with the overall downward movement of the collision rates. We will continue to investigate evidence at collision scenes to identify factors contributing to the accident and to prevent similar incidents. September's 12-month average for customer accidents increased by 0.8%, while customer accident injuries increased by 4%. As previously reported, we have already isolated a relatively small number of locations that have accounted for the initial adverse trending of both of these indicators. Since June, we've been addressing performance with supplemental training and in-service compliance campaigns. So we've been out there on the routes, checking the service and the delivery of it. The 12-month rate for employee on-duty lost time accidents is 7.7% higher on a regional basis. The anomaly of June's adverse trending at New York City Transit still accounts for the majority of the recent 12-month average increase. Lost time accident performance across all 3 bus entities continues to be monitored with ongoing emphasis on the initial investigation, root cause determination, and follow-up actions to preclude similar incidents. We anticipate that the positive trending for MTA Bus will continue in 2011 and that New York City Transit's performance will normalize over time as the balance of the year progresses. This concludes my report. Do you have any questions?
Okay.
I'd like to introduce Tom Charles for Paratransit.
Thank you, Steve. Good morning. The Paratransit report is on page 14. For the month of October 2011, accessorized paratransit ridership was down 4.3% compared to October 2010 levels. Able ride ridership decreased by 2.9% from October 2010 levels. Over the 12-month period ending October 2011, there was a 4.3% decrease in accessoride requests for service. Able Ride experienced a 6.4% decline in requests for service over the same 12-month period. Favorable no-show trends continued in the month of October, as Accessoride and Able Ride passenger no-shows declined by 31.9% and 28.2% respectively. And finally, this is an update on the test and evaluation of the broker for a car service system. As of the first week in December, we have reached 25% of all weekday daily trips scheduled with car services. The broker system addresses 60% or 4,000 of these daily car service trips. The broker continues to develop a better recruitment and service orientation of car service bases and their drivers, especially with an emphasis on customer sensitivity and the performance of ADA paratransit trips. Are there any questions regarding the paratransit report?
Andrew? Oh,
Tom, am I correct that when Long Island Bus is no longer MTA, Able Ride will also be no longer MTA?
Correct. It will be under Veolia.
It'll be under Veolia.
Yes.
They've committed to that as well, correct?
Yes.
Thanks.
the hat? Yes?
How much money have we saved as a result of the 25%?
Right now, we're attributing close to $14 million on the broker for car service.
Wow, Jeff. I knew Jeff.
Is that an annualized number?
Yes.
Yes, Jeff?
I think obviously we've talked at length about those things. I understand the 12-month average ridership going down, the trips number requested, but what do you account for the most recent ones? In October, you're down by another, I think, 8%. We've talked in the past about the feeder service, how that impacts the yellow taxis, delivery cars, and all that sort of things of reducing costs, but these are actually ridership. Is that a result of increased scrutiny on the eligibility side? Is it new? I don't think it's new applicants into the program. I think it's just ridership's down.
Yeah, ridership is down. I attribute some of it to the fact that we do have a fixed income population, so discretionary trips have been down. The feeder service, rolling it out, many customers thought that every trip would result in us bringing them to bus, so they've been reluctant to call. So we see a dropout rate from that. I do think it'll come back, a small percentage increase, but this year has been quite distinctly different than previous years. That we're still receiving, instead of the 4,000 applications, we're receiving 3,500. I haven't seen a drop in the applications significant.
A drop in the acceptance rate?
No, that's remained steady.
Okay, let's move on.
Okay, I'll begin with the ridership report on page 13 of the book. For the month of October 2011, average weekday ridership fell at all three bus agencies when compared to October 2010. Long Island Bus average weekday ridership fell by 1.3% in October 2011. MTA Bus fell by 1.5%, and New York City Transit Bus fell by 4.1% for the same period. Average weekend ridership in October was down at all three agencies as well, with New York City Transit Bus being down 7.2% on the weekends, MTA Bus by 3.5%, and Long Island Bus by 4.8% as compared to October 2010. In October, on Express Bus ridership, it was up slightly by 0.3% at Transit and down 4% in MTA Bus. We have an early look at the preliminary data for ridership in November 2011, and again, it fell at all three agencies when compared to 2010 based on the preliminary information. Average weekday ridership fell slightly at MTA Bus in November by 0.8%, while Long Island Bus fell by 2.6%. and New York City Transit Bus fell by 3.3%. With regard to the revenue and expense budget report that's summarized on page 15, year-to-date October farebox revenues for fixed route services are below forecast across the board. MTA Bus is 2% below forecast levels. Long Island Bus was 1.4% worse, and New York City Transit Bus was 1% worse than forecast through October. Overall, fixed route farebox revenues are a little more than $11 million less than forecast through 2011, of which a good portion of that deficit is attributable to the shortfall resulting from Tropical Storm Irene. I stand corrected. On the expense side, October 2011 year-to-date non-reimbursable accrued expenses reflected mostly favorable variances. MTA Bus and New York City Transit Bus were below forecast levels by $8.4 million and $81 million in New York City Transit, respectively. The underruns against budget are a combination of things. In transit, it definitely includes paratransit economies. There are vacancy levels in agencies, reduced overtime spending, and we also have a fair amount of timing issues related to non-labor expenses in all agencies. Long Island Bus is slightly over, is $600,000 over forecast through October due to fuel costs and a change in the pension rate assumptions. That's the financial and ridership reports. If we have any questions, otherwise I'll move on to procurement. Okay. This month we have 2 competitive procurements for approval in the committee agenda this month that begin on page 49, totaling $32.45 million in proposed expenses. I would like to highlight the larger of the 2 procurement items. This procurement is for approval for MTA Bus Company to purchase 74 low-floor compressed natural gas buses in the amount of $31,788,339 from Daimler Buses North America. The proposed contract also includes provision for options for the purchase of up to 30 additional 40-foot CNG buses. In March 2011, the MTA Board adopted a resolution authorizing the use of a competitive RFP in lieu of competitive bidding for the purchase of these 74 replacement CNG buses for MTA Bus's local bus service. The initial proposals were received in September from 2 proposers, and the selection committee unanimously recommended award of the contract to Daimler, as reflected in the staff summary that's on page 53 of the book.
Are those the buses that are made in Canada?
No, New York
They are
State.
made in New York
Oriskany.
State?
Yeah,
They're made in Oriskany.
yeah,
Oh, okay.
those are Oriskany.
Is he staying there?
What's notable about this contract is it'll be funded with 80% federal or FTA funds, and the funds are contained in the MTA's 2010 to 2014 capital program. We have Steve Plichaki and members of buses here to answer any questions you may have regarding this procurement or the other procurement that's to be approved.
Okay, do we have a motion? Oh, I'm sorry, did I miss someone that would like? I'm sorry, Andrew.
That's correct.
Correct.
And Andrew, you asked the
They're not
question,
Long Island
are they built in New York? They are final assembly in New York. There's a portion of the bus that is built in Mississauga, Canada.
Yeah, we chatted about this before.
Sorry, Nancy, can we just, for this committee, just kind of recycle that 30-second conversation?
Sure.
I think it's important to all of us on the board and beyond that we do everything we can to have as much bought in New York State, or in the case of the Port Authority, the New York-New Jersey region, focusing on maximizing not only assembly but manufacturing, and with a focus on the short term in driving up the higher value-added manufacturing piece. Because in the next week, month, 6 months, we're not going to attract, as hard as we try, a manufacturing plant, but we can change the mix between assembly and manufacturing. And I think everybody's focused on it. It's a priority of Governor Cuomo, and who's put together a task force which includes Joe Lota and me and Nuria and others in the administration to drive this higher. I just wanted to say that since we had discussed it at the earlier meeting. Thanks.
I just need to comment on that for a moment. These are FTA funds. This is the first time in probably better part of 20-plus years that I've been here that we've used FTA funds to buy buses. The feds preclude geographic preference. As you know, when we use local money, MTA money, we have a very high incentive for contractors to move their facilities to New York State. When you use federal funds, you can't evaluate that as a criteria.
So can I just add on that? I'm obviously aware of that. I think that among the things we ought to look at is increasing the role of Empire State Development, which is in the business of attracting manufacturing and isn't subject to those restrictions, and its counterpart in New Jersey. And I think that given the level of unemployment that exists, especially the unemployment in the trades where it's 20, 30, 40%, we've got to think outside the box and be doing everything we can to drive more of the value added from assembly to manufacturing and attracting plants here. And I think Empire State Development and other agencies can play a role in that. Thank you.
Plus, isn't it true that while you can't, when you use federal funds, mandate that they be local, you can let the manufacturer know that should you require further bus purchases, you'd look favorably to them if they did do it in the state of New York. I mean, there's ways to get your message across, I would think.
Absolutely, and this particular procurement has somewhere in the neighborhood about 24% New York State content, so which is healthy. And as you know, on the Nova front, we've been very successful in getting manufacturers to open up plants in Plattsburgh, which is, also.
I move that the procurements be adopted.
Okay, and just on an aside, and it has nothing to do with the MTA, but in my real job, I hope, Pat, that you and the governor stay on message with this, because I see in my company the deterioration of the jobs for the guys that carry a lunchbox, for no better way to put it, the tradesmen, as you would say, and it's staggering, and I would love to see them come back to New York, because there are such quality workers here in those technical jobs. So, yeah. Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? All in favor? Aye. The two procurements are moved.
Okay, Norm for service changes.
Good morning. There are 2 bus service changes included as information, both for New York City Transit. MTA Bus has none for this month. The first New York City Transit service change on page 47 of the agenda represents a permanent revision to the S55 and S74 routes in Staten Island due to the closure of the Arthur Kill Correctional Facility on December 1. New York City Transit has shortened this S55 route to terminate at Bloomingdale Road at Veterans Road Rest. In addition, the S74 route, which also formerly served the correctional facility, would remain on Arthur Kill Road and would bypass the former interior stop at the facility at all times. Secondly, the second New York City Transit service change on page 55 of the book reflects a reroute of 4 a.m. and 4 p.m. X-22 express trips to and from Tottenville to run nonstop along the West Shore Expressway between the Outer Bridge Park and Ride Lot and the checkpoint. This routing will be established for a trial period of approximately 6 months beginning in late January 2012. Peter Cafriero on my left is here to answer any questions the committee members may have on either of these 2 changes. Are there any questions?
I assume that this is going to be marketed for this test in some way?
Right. Sorry. Yeah, we'll have, we're talking about having seat drops and other, it's a very local area that we have to reach, but we will, in fact, try to market it.
Any announcement in local papers or anything?
It was, I believe that we've been working very closely with elected officials there, and there was an announcement about a week ago about this, but as we get closer to the actual implementation date, we'll do that.
That concludes the comment. I'll give the floor back to Tom Del Sorbo.
Okay.
Wait, I'm so sorry.
I'm sorry.
Obviously, I support this effort and thank the transit, particularly the bus operations, for an imaginative solution, a practical solution with very limited resources. And so I required a lot of effort on both bus operations and Tom, and I thank you for your involvement.
Okay, action items. Okay, this month's agenda includes as action items the 2012 final proposed budget for MTA Bus and the 2011 November forecast for Long Island Bus. These begin on page 65 of the book. The Long Island Bus staff summary is on page 75 of the book and reflects financial information only through the end of 2011 due to the previously authorized termination of the lease and operating agreement. For 2012 and beyond, the plan continues to assume the exclusion of Long Island Bus from all budget forecasts of MTA subsidies. I will also note that the Department of Bus 2012 budget was included in New York City Transit Committee's agenda that was discussed earlier today. So we ask for the committee's approval on both the MTA Bus 2012 budget and separately on the Long Island Bus 2011 forecast.
Before we do that, does anyone have any comments?
I move that the budgets be adopted.
Yes.
Wasn't there a question in terms of ongoing costs relating to the Long Island Bus that's still going to be following us in 12? If you've got no budget for them in 12, how do you do that?
This will obviously be. Do you want to handle it? Okay. There is a note in the staff summary that's coming up for the Financial Committee, which basically, we do note that there will be recurring costs beyond 2011 to finish the wind down of operation and future payments for things such as employee liabilities. We have vacation and sick cash out to pay. We have unemployment insurance, retirees insurance. The statement that's actually in the staff summary says that point blank, while these costs will likely impact MTA's short-term cash flow, such expenses are the financial responsibility of Nassau County under the terms in lease and operating agreement, and the MTA will seek reimbursement for such expenses from the county. That's the exact language.
It'll be run through headquarters. It won't be run through MTA Bus. So all of those costs will be isolated here at headquarters, so we can properly get reimbursed.
Is Nassau County aware of those numbers? And has Nassau County given us any commitment that they will pay it? That's my point. They didn't pay us in the past. Why are we going to assume they're going to pay us in the future?
They are aware. I can't speak to what they'll do in the future. I think history is a good indicator. However, I'm also aware of the fact that many of the retiree benefit plans and all of that, I'm working with the folks in Albany at the retiree system to have them billed directly to the county and bypass the MTA.
The more of that, the better.
Okay. We have a motion.
Need two separate motions.
Right, okay. Do we have a second? All in favor? Okay, now we need a second motion.
Just mark me abstaining on this. I'll make my comments at Finance.
Okay. We need now a second motion. Second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much.
Darrell?
Now we move that.
Okay, that concludes the agenda for the day, unless there's any other questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you and happy holidays.
Happy holidays to everyone.